We've all been hearing on the news the insurance companies have been dropping coverage across the Southwest, and Arizona is no exception. So I wanted to touch on this important topic with no other but the insurance specialist here in Flagstaff, Dan Hakes with Farmers Insurance. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And if this is the first time you've seen me in this format, I'm Ksenia with Remax Fine Properties here in Flagstaff, and this is Live, Love, Flagstaff, my newest video series. So I hope you enjoy it. Dan, let's dive in.
Sure.
What's going on with insurance?
Insurance is in what I call a tailspin, and it's happened for various reasons. One of the biggest is what happened with COVID, and it created such a bottleneck of services as well as price changes. The inflation has been crazy, and then we throw on top of that climate is changing, and there are more weather events than there used to be. So companies have struggled in the last 3 to 4 years to really make any profit, and that means that they have to make changes to be profitable.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the claims history report. When a buyer enters a real estate transaction with me, they have to look at the claims history report for the property. There are some changes that have recently been introduced that are concerning, and I just want to educate my buyers on that topic. Can you fill us in on what's going on with the
Sure.
claims history report?
Yeah, so to secure insurance today, most carriers are going to look at your claims history, and when they look at that claims history, they're trying to determine, are you a good risk? Is the property you're buying a good risk? That claims history will highlight any claims that you've had in the last 3 to 5 years. It'll also highlight what claims the property has had in the last 3 to 5 years. And so carriers today will now look at not only the claims that you bring to the property, but they look at the property claims as well. So if you've had a claim in Tennessee and moving to Flagstaff, that claim is going to follow you.
Wow.
And it'll make it more difficult to obtain insurance and perhaps more expensive.
Wow. And this is a very important part of the due diligence process. So when we enter the real estate transaction, there's first 10 to 12 days when we have to do that.
Yes.
And we also need, if it's a finance deal, to secure a insurance policy. And there are some changes and difficulties that we sometimes experience. I want to make sure my buyers do that on day one, because it's not as easy as just a phone call to the office. So what kind of information do the buyers need to have so that you have a full picture and can provide them with the correct quote?
So buyers need, when they're going to ask for an insurance quote and try and secure coverage, they need to make sure that they can provide as much information about the property as possible. Carriers today look at many more things than they used to in terms of qualifying a home and applying a premium to it. So age of the home, age of the roof, age of the systems in the house are going to be important, such as how old is that furnace? How old is the hot water heater? Have the plumbing pipes been replaced if the home was built, say, in the 60s or the 50s? And in some cases in Flagstaff, the 40s and the 20s. So electrical being up to date, plumbing being up to date, HVAC is all very important in terms of, one, qualifying for a policy, as well as being able to get the best premium available.
Excellent. Let's get back to the claims history report. So some people don't have any claims against the house. They've had, most updated furnaces and roofs and main systems in the house, but their policy still has gone up. And I think in 2024, we're expected to get, what kind of percentage do you expect?
I don't know.
Premium.
Premium percentages are difficult to predict because each carrier does something different. But I think that if you see premiums as low as 10 to 15%, that's going to be the low side of increases for premiums this year. In the past 12 to 18 months, we've sometimes seen up to 100% increase based on age of home, based on claims, based on credit history for clients. So it's really kind of all over the board. So clients really need to do their due diligence in terms of trying to make sure that they're working closely with an agent to discover all the different ways that they can make that work and get the best premiums they can by taking advantage of discounts, right? Bundling, things like that, as well as making sure coverages that they don't need are not on the policy, and then taking deductibles high and making sure they're self-insuring so that they can reduce premium over time, keep that money in their pocket.
What deductibles do you normally see, or would you recommend to bring down the premiums in this market?
Years ago, we used to say $1,000 deductible was the right number to be at, but today $1,000 doesn't buy what $1,000 did 2 years ago. So really, we don't recommend being less than $2,500 on a deductible for a home. And if you can afford $5,000 or $10,000, then you should, because most people don't make claims very often. The average claim on a homeowner's policy is about once in 9 years. So if you figure 9 years, I'm going to save $300 or $400. That adds up to a higher deductible.
Absolutely. And we see a lot of people claiming hail damage on the roofs, thinking it's going to be covered and it's free, but then it has a ripple effect down the road with increased premiums. So sometimes you have to weigh in and see if that is really worth the claim. So really good point on that. Something that I've been noticing in my field of work is that the equity has been appreciating so much in the past couple of years. So if you as the buyer have purchased a home more than 2 years ago, or even a year ago, the market has been still pretty solid, you might be underinsured. And this is something I really want to educate my clients and anyone I get in contact with, is that in case a disaster happens, you may not have sufficient coverage. So how often would you say somebody needs to revisit their insurance policy?
We like to have our clients talk to us once a year. Because if we do it annually, we can keep up with what's changing in the market as well as with what's changing on the homeowner side. Oftentimes homeowners, make upgrades to their home, and those things cost more than, what they had previously had. And so coverages should be adjusted. But for sure, if somebody hasn't reviewed their policy with an agent in the last 12 to 24 months, it's pretty safe to say you're underinsured, because the cost of construction has just grown so fast.
Absolutely. So back to the due diligence, or if people have received the bill and the policy has gone up, they're probably picking up the phone and saying, what's going on with my policy?
Yep.
If they are a client of yours or they're new to Farmers Insurance, what's the best way for people to get a second opinion, to get in touch with you and ask about all this bundling, discounts, claims history? How can you help?
Sure. I think the best way is face-to-face, but we also will work through email, and we can do, video conferencing for those people that might be on the outskirts and don't come into town very often. But you can reach out to us at 928-226-1611, or you can send us an email to service@danhakesagency.com.
And I'll make sure to have contact information in the comments. Thanks so much for being here with us today.